Predicting a disaster and taking action to save lives before it happens is not easy. Quickly bringing together the right people with the right skills to make these decisions makes it possible. FOREWARN is a community that provides this support to humanitarians on the ground and also advocates for early action to become the norm. In the Philippines, FOREWARN is looking to connect with scientists, researchers, and specialists to support the field of disaster risk reduction and crisis management. Today, we asked five specialists from different fields to share their thoughts on the importance of interdisciplinary action and coordination across sectors to push for a more resilient Philippines. To start, could you please introduce who you are, what you do, and what your specialization is?
My name is Christopher Burse. I'm faculty at the UP National College of Public Administration and Governance. And at the same time, I'm also the Director for Research and Creative Work sa UP, at the UP Resilience Institute.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mary Grace Bidakuma, and I work at the Institute of Biological Sciences, University of the Philippines, Las Bañas. I'm also part of the UP COVID-19 pandemic response team. Now, my specialization is molecular epidemiology. My training is on molecular biology, epidemiology, diagnostics, transmission, and drug resistance of infectious diseases, particularly Plasmodium, that species capable of infecting humans.
Hi, I am Jomar Fajardo Rabahante. I am a professor of applied mathematics in University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and also the program chair in mathematics teaching at the University of the Philippines Open University. And my research interest is on mathematical biology, specifically in studying infectious diseases.
My name is Alfredo Mahar Lagmay. I am a professor at the National Institute of Geological Sciences and the executive director of the UP Resilience Institute with the nationwide operational assessment of hazards as its core component.
I'm Malin Tumunong. I'm a geologist, so I've been working for the longest time in landslides, and then debris flows.
Why do you think science and research is important in the field of disaster risk reduction and crisis management?
Oh, it's important because to be able to solve our disaster problem, it must be science-based. You can never find a solution to a problem if you don't understand the problem.
Science and research is about the acquisition of knowledge to better understand our world, our surroundings, the phenomenon around us, what it is, how it works, to recognize patterns. So, as such, it is an understanding phenomenon or disasters in this case that enables us to know why and how it happens. Science and research enable us to predict, provides us the knowledge how to mitigate, monitor, how to be resilient. So, science plays a key role in providing evidence for effective DRR measures.
Science and research are important in the field of disaster risk reduction and crisis management because science provides the data. And you see in disaster risk reduction, it's very important to prepare everyone, particularly the government, how to handle the potential problems that might arise.
We can use mathematics in many ways. One is using mathematics or statistics in studying the data. Data will tell us about where we are now in the disaster or where we can go in the future. So it's like giving directions to our policymakers and implementers.
Disasters can either be natural disasters or man-made disasters. So it's very important to identify what are the factors in the population that can actually put their lives at risk and that will increase morbidity or even mortality.
Because remember, when you talk about disasters, we're talking basically about three components: hazards, exposure, and vulnerability. And those are the things that we can actually know beforehand. We can measure beforehand before a disaster or crisis happens. So if we're able to do that, then we'll be able to anticipate and minimize the impacts on the people. And I think that's the primary reason. No?
So in a post-disaster response, it's very important to identify what are the needs of the population and then provide data for it so that the government can immediately act. There can be policies that can be enacted so that we can reduce people who would die from certain illnesses caused, caused by the disaster or as a result of the conditions following that disaster.
When we talk about disasters or crises, we're talking about lives and we're talking about livelihoods, we're talking about properties. So practically any decision that we will make in times of disasters or in times of crisis will have direct impact on the conditions of the people.
So it's important that scientists from all over the world try to understand through research the underlying phenomena and to be able to understand it well so that we can find the appropriate solutions for hazards mitigation.
Scientists do research because they want to address problems in the society that will improve human life, prevent sicknesses and deaths.
Science should be embraced by the people. If it's not embraced by the people, then the science will be meaningless.
For our next question, do you think that the masses or the general public are afraid or intimidated by science and data? How can we bring science and data closer to our people?
So what we need to do really is to find innovative ways, creative ways to communicate the science so that they can embrace it.
Communicating science and communicating quantitative results to the public using the language that the public can understand.
There's always that tendency to there's that by the nature of the work, which is highly technical, it can it can easily, as you've said, it intimidate or potentially keep certain sectors from appreciating the information.
So it's more on communicating, it's more on storytelling, it's more on educating the public what is mathematics, but not at the level that we're going to discuss the hardcore technical details.
The science should be communicated as well in the vernacular, must be localized. There are many ways, but it's not just science and engineering. It's very important that we get the help of the psychologists, the anthropologists, the sociologists, the linguists.
One way really is also through the tapping of what we call as influencers.
To work together with the LGUs and the NGOs and the NGAs as well as the local government,
politicians or policymakers or even government workers, ordinary government workers who are strongly supportive of science-based or evidence-based disaster risk reduction.
And that is what we call as transdisciplinary work or transdisciplinary crisis management.
The next question is, how do you think scientists could work together with the private sector, the government, and civil society organizations to further improve responses and planning in the future?
First of all, we need to recognize the importance of science. And second of all, second condition should be there should be an existing platform in which all these stakeholders can work together. Otherwise, of course, they would still be in their own silos, working, doing their own stuff.
It's important to have open science, open knowledge, open data, and that is to build trust amongst all of the stakeholders. Without that, there is no science because science requires reproducibility. If the data is confined in silos, then there's no openness. There's no reproducibility of science.
It would be good to see efforts that adopt a more or less a more participatory approach, no, to studies, especially studies related to climate change and disaster reduction. This is being done already, but it would be good to involve uh, even non-academic uh, experts, no, or officials or people, and not really just as participants, but as part of the study.
To have transdisciplinary work is not just the science. We need the psyche, understand the psyche of the Filipino people. We need to communicate well.
We need to talk to each other. Everything will start if we talk among ourselves, among different disciplines, and among different organizations, even from government, private, or civil society. So
Get the arts, music to be part of the communication process. But for all of these people to work together, it is important that there is open access, open knowledge, open science. That way you build trust, and trust is very, very important in communication.
So without this platform, I mean, like, where you have to create the environment in which all these actors would have to work together.
For scientists to do research, we need funding. And funding usually come from the government and the private sector. And it's very important as well that there must be mutual respect between scientists, the government, and the private sector. You know, as a scientist builds a name on that particular field, and then the scientists would be able to gather funding and then pursue research that can be translated into policies and actions.
So we need to talk, discuss our different points of views. We need to discuss our different perspectives, different ideas.
Are there any last things you want to impart before we say goodbye?
Here in the Philippines, we lack people who are working in data science and mathematical modeling. So I hope the kids who are going to listen in this video will be excited and interested in learning mathematics and statistics and quantitative sciences. So you can help our government, our country. So we need you. We need more scientists and mathematicians.
I think the challenge now is like information.
As scientists, we have a role to let the public know. It's not just for publications, scientific publications. Science is not good if it will not reach the very people that we do research for.
You know, how do we actually reach out to them? What would be the way in which how science and, you know, research could be properly be accessed and accepted, actually digested by the masses?
Because without the science, without the facts and projections, then there would be no good basis for doing a policy decision, which in turn would affect all of us.